I heard the emergency alert at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop before your brain even processes the words. That sharp, artificial tone cutting through everything, the TV, my phone, my laptop all screaming at once. I was eating leftover pizza, cold, standing at my kitchen counter in boxer shorts and an old Radiohead t-shirt. The alert said shelter in place, said there were reports of extreme violence, said something about a pathogen, transmission through bites and bodily fluids, symptoms resembling rabies but progressing much faster. Stay indoors, lock your doors, await further instructions. I looked out my front window. Mrs. Patterson was watering her roses across the street. 2 houses down, the Martinez kids were drawing with chalk on their driveway. Normal, completely normal. The sun was bright, almost aggressive. Late August heat making the asphalt shimmer. My phone buzzed. Text from my sister in Portland. "Are you seeing this? What's happening there?" I didn't know what was happening. The alert repeated. Then another one. This time the tone was different, more urgent if that was possible. Avoid contact with anyone showing signs of aggression or illness. Do not attempt to help injured individuals. Seek elevated shelter. The last part stuck with me. Elevated shelter. I live alone in a small 2-story house at the end of Maple Street. Bought it 3 years ago, barely affording it, one of those post-divorce impulse decisions that somehow worked out. The attic isn't finished. Just raw wood, insulation, a few boxes of things I couldn't throw away but didn't want to look at. I'd been up there maybe twice since moving in. Once to check for leaks, once to store Christmas decorations I never used. But I remembered the roof access. The previous owner had installed a small hatch, probably for ventilation or repairs. I'd noticed it, made a mental note about it being a safety hazard, then forgot about it completely. Elevated shelter. I went to the window again. Mrs. Patterson had dropped her hose. She was looking down the street, hand up to shade her eyes. The water was running into the gutter, creating a small river along the curb. Then she backed up, not walking backward, scrambling like she'd seen a snake. Her roses forgotten. Something was coming up the street. At first I thought it was someone running. Then I realized the movement was wrong, too jerky, arms swinging wild. The person, I still thought of it as a person then, crashed into a parked car, bounced off it without slowing, kept coming. Even from my window I could see the blood, dark stains down the front of their clothes, their face wrong somehow, distorted. Mrs. Patterson screamed. I heard it through my closed window. The thing that used to be a person grabbed her. She went down into her roses, thorns tearing at both of them, and I watched something happen that my brain tried very hard not to process. Red, blooming across white hair. Movement that should have stopped but didn't. I stepped back from the window. My hands were shaking. The pizza in my stomach felt like concrete. The Martinez kids were screaming now. Their mother ran out, grabbed them, dragged them inside. Their chalk drawings, a rainbow, a dog, a house with a smiling sun, abandoned on the driveway. The door slammed. More movement down the street. Not one. Several. Moving with that same horrible wrong gait, like puppets with cut strings, all momentum and no control. Another alert, harsher this time. Seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Avoid all contact. I didn't think. My body moved before my mind caught up. I ran to the kitchen, started grabbing things. Food, water, anything I could carry. I shoved bread in a garbage bag, dumped in cans of soup, grabbed a case of bottled water. My camping backpack was in the closet. I filled it with more supplies, not thinking, just moving. Flashlights, batteries. A first aid kit I'd bought years ago and never opened. My phone charger, laptop. The stairs to the second floor felt longer than they'd ever been. My legs burned. I was gasping, panic making my chest tight. I threw everything into my bedroom, then went back down. Kitchen knife. Can opener. Blankets from the hall closet. Every bottle of water I had. I made 3 trips, maybe 4, hauling everything upstairs while the alerts kept screaming, and outside I could hear sounds now, yelling, car alarms, something that might have been gunshots or backfiring engines or both. The attic access was in my bedroom closet. A pull-down ladder, wooden and creaky. I hadn't opened it in over a year. I yanked the cord, and it dropped with a bang that made me flinch. Dust rained down. The ladder wobbled as I tested it with my weight. I started passing supplies up. The attic was hot, that trapped heat that builds up under a roof all day. The smell hit me. Old wood, dust, something musty. I worked fast, climbing up and down, my t-shirt soaking through with sweat. My arms ached. My breathing came in ragged gasps. Outside, closer now, I heard screaming. I grabbed more things, frantic now. Clothes, towels, a pot from the kitchen for water or waste or I didn't know what. Matches, candles, a battery-powered radio I'd gotten for camping. My mind was racing, trying to think of what I'd need, but it was all white noise and terror. The last thing I grabbed was a hammer from my toolbox in the garage. I didn't go outside, used the door from the kitchen, keeping my eyes away from the windows. The garage was dim and smelled like oil and grass clippings. My hands found the hammer, a box of nails, a crowbar. Weapons or tools. Both, maybe. Back in the house, something hit my front door. A wet, heavy thud. Then scratching. Long, dragging sounds like nails on wood. Not knocking. Nothing human about it. I took the stairs 3 at a time, shoved everything up into the attic, then climbed the ladder myself. At the top, breathing hard, I pulled the ladder up. It folded in sections, awkward and heavy. I hauled it into the attic with me, muscles screaming, then closed the hatch. There was a simple latch on the underside. I flipped it, locked. Not that a latch would stop anything determined, but it was something. A barrier, a line between me and whatever was happening down there. The attic was maybe 20 feet long, 10 feet wide. Low ceiling with exposed rafters and beams. Pink insulation between the floor joists. I was careful to step only on the wooden beams, remembering vaguely that you could fall through otherwise. A single bulb hung from a wire in the center. I pulled the string and weak yellow light filled the space. My supplies were scattered where I'd thrown them. I stood there, chest heaving, sweat dripping into my eyes, and tried to think. The roof access. That's why I'd come up here. Elevated shelter. I could see it at the far end of the attic, a square hatch maybe 2 feet on each side set into the roof slope. I picked my way across the beams toward it, testing each step. The wood creaked under my weight. The heat was oppressive, pressing down like a physical weight. The hatch had a simple sliding bolt. I worked it open. It stuck, rust or paint or years of disuse, and pushed. The hatch swung up and out, hinges squealing. Cool air rushed in, blessed relief after the stifling attic. I stuck my head out. My roof was steep, dark shingles still hot from the day's sun. The hatch opened onto the back slope, away from the street. I could see my small backyard, the fence, Mrs. Kowalski's yard beyond that. To my left and right, the roof stretched, peaked at the center. I could climb out, sit on the slope if I was careful. The peak would give me a view of the street. Below, in the Kowalski yard, their dog was barking. Continuous, frantic barking that didn't stop. I pulled myself out onto the roof, moving slowly, testing the grip of the shingles. They were rough under my palms, still radiating heat. I crawled up the slope toward the peak, feeling exposed, visible, but needing to see. At the top, I could look down onto Maple Street. It wasn't my street anymore. Not the quiet suburb where I'd lived for 3 years, where I knew everyone's names, where the biggest excitement was the annual block party, or someone's teenager getting a new car. There were bodies in the street. Not many yet, but enough. Mrs. Patterson's roses were trampled, red in ways roses shouldn't be. A car had crashed into the Jeffersons' mailbox, driver's door open, no one inside. The Martinez house had its windows broken. I could see the holes in the glass, jagged edges catching the sun, and the infected. That's what my mind labeled them, needing a word. any word. They moved through the street in ones and twos, wandering without purpose or pattern. Some were running, that horrible jerky sprint. Others stumbled, listing to one side, dragging feet or arms. One was on all fours, crawling, face pressed to the pavement like it was tracking a scent. They'd been people. Hours ago, maybe minutes, they'd been my neighbors. I could see Tom Williams from 3 houses down, still wearing his Seahawks jersey. The Patel's teenage daughter, her prom dress from last spring, now torn and filthy. Someone I didn't recognize. Business suit, briefcase still clutched in one hand while the other arm hung at a wrong angle. One of them looked up. Not at me specifically, just up, head tilting back, mouth open. I could see teeth. Too many teeth. The jaw wasn't right. I ducked down behind the peak, heart slamming against my ribs, pressed my face against the hot shingles, and tried to breathe quietly, even though rationally I knew they couldn't hear me from up here, couldn't reach me. Elevated shelter. I'd made it. I was elevated. But shelter implied walls, safety, protection. I was on a roof in boxer shorts and a t-shirt with supplies thrown haphazardly in an attic, and no idea what happened next. The sun was starting to lower. Not sunset yet, but moving that direction. Maybe 4 p.m., less than 2 hours since the first alert. The world had ended in less than 2 hours. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I'd forgotten I had it. The screen showed 15 missed calls, dozens of texts, most from my sister, some from friends, one from my ex-wife, just 3 words. "Are you safe?" No signal bars. The text had come through before the towers went down or got overwhelmed or whatever had happened. I tried to call out. Nothing. Tried to load a web page. The wheel spun and spun. The last text from my sister. Timestamp, 3:23 p.m. "They're saying don't go outside for anything. Stay where you are. I love you." I texted back, "I'm okay, in attic. Stay safe." Watched it fail to send. The message just sat there, accusatory, unsent. Below, someone screamed, high and raw, and then suddenly cut off. I needed to get back inside. Being on the roof felt wrong, too exposed. I crawled back down the slope, careful not to slide, and lowered myself through the hatch. The attic heat hit me again, worse now by contrast. I closed the hatch but didn't bolt it. I might need to get out fast, might need to see what was happening, might need the air. My supplies were chaos. I needed to organize, to think, to plan. But my hands were shaking, and my mind kept replaying what I'd seen. Mrs. Patterson in her roses, Tom Williams' face, wrong. Everything about it, wrong. I sat down on one of the beams, careful of the insulation, and put my head in my hands, breathed, counted to 10, then 20, 30. The attic light flickered, not out, just a brief brownout. The power was failing. Of course it was. How long before it went completely? How long before the water stopped? I should have filled the bathtub. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Fill every container with water before it stops. But I'd panicked, grabbed what I could, run. Standard disaster prep that everyone knows, and I'd forgotten all of it in my terror. Too late now. Going back down wasn't an option. The scratching on my front door had stopped, but that didn't mean anything. They could be in the house, could be anywhere. I forced myself to move, organize the supplies at least, give my hands something to do while my brain tried to process. Food first. I took stock. 2 loaves of bread, 1 already opened, a jar of peanut butter, 6 cans of soup, tomato, chicken noodle, 1 vegetable beef, box of crackers, 3 granola bars, 2 apples, already starting to bruise, a package of hot dogs that would go bad fast without refrigeration, bag of chips, some string cheese. Also, perishable? Not enough. Not nearly enough. Water. Case of 24 bottles, 16 ounce each. Math I didn't want to do. A gallon jug, half full. Maybe 3 gallons total. Humans need what? Half a gallon a day minimum? A gallon if it's hot and you're sweating, which I was. The attic was an oven. 3 days of water, maybe 4 if I was careful. Then what? I push the thought away. 4 days was forever from now. 4 days was time to figure things out, time for help to come, time for whatever this was to be controlled or stopped or explained. The radio. I grabbed it, extended the antenna, turned it on. Static. I worked through the stations. More static, then fragments of voices, too broken to understand. Then, a clear signal. Remain in your homes. The National Guard has been deployed to major population centers. Do not approach military personnel. Do not attempt to leave quarantine zones. This is a federal emergency. I repeat, the voice cut out. More static. I kept searching. Found another station, this one local. Confirmed reports of extreme violence across the city. Police are overwhelmed. If you are in a safe location, remain there. Do not call 911 unless you are in immediate life-threatening danger. The lines are overloaded. Lock your doors, stay away from windows, and wait for... Static again. Then nothing. I cycled through the entire dial twice more. Music on one station, bizarrely normal classic rock, like the DJ had just abandoned the booth and left it running. Another emergency broadcast, the same automated message repeating. Nothing else. I turned it off to save batteries. The silence after the static was worse. Outside, the sun was definitely lower now. Maybe another 3 hours until dark. I didn't want to think about dark. Didn't want to imagine being up here in the pitch black, listening to whatever happened down there without being able to see. The flashlights. I had 2, both LED, good, and candles. Though lighting those up here seemed dangerous with all the exposed wood and insulation, the batteries would have to last. I had 1 pack of AAs, 8 count. Not enough. Nothing was enough. I organized everything into sections. Food on one side, water on another, tools and supplies, the hammer, crowbar, knife, can opener, first aid kit within easy reach. Clothes and blankets in a pile. My laptop and phone, even though neither was much use now. The charger, pointless, without power. I kept it anyway. My bedroom below had a bathroom attached. I had access to a toilet, sink, shower, until the water stopped, until I couldn't risk going down. The hatch to the attic. Could anything open it from below? I pictured one of those things, the infected, looking up, seeing the ladder mechanism, pulling it down. Could they problem solve like that? The news had said the pathogen resembled rabies. Rabies destroyed higher brain function, made you aggressive, confused, unable to think complex thoughts. But I'd seen that one, tracking a scent, moving with purpose. I'd seen them run, coordinate their movements enough to attack. How much of their minds was left? I crawled back to the hatch, the one to my bedroom, not the roof, and examined it. The latch was flimsy. A determined person could break through. I needed to reinforce it. The crowbar worked as a brace. I wedged it through the handle of the latch and propped the other end against a floor beam. Not perfect, but better. If something tried to force the hatch, they'd have to break the beam or bend the crowbar. Both would make noise. Give me warning. Warning to do what? I had a hammer, a knife. Against one of those things, would it matter? I'd seen Mrs. Patterson go down. She hadn't stood a chance. Don't think about Mrs. Patterson. I checked my phone again. Still no signal. 5:17 p.m., the battery was at 64%. I turned it off completely to save power. The laptop, too. My connection to the world severed. The roof hatch called to me. I needed to see again, needed to know what was happening out there. But going out meant being visible, being exposed. Wait until dark? No. Worse. Wait until I had to. I compromised. Pushed the hatch open just a crack, enough to let in air and hear, not enough to be obvious. The cooler evening air felt incredible. I positioned myself near it, letting the breeze dry my sweat-soaked shirt. Sounds drifted up. Moaning. God, the moaning. Low and continuous, like wind through a tunnel, but organic, wet. Feet shuffling on pavement. Something breaking, glass or wood. A car alarm, distant, eventually stopping. Kowalski's dog still barking, then suddenly not barking. Just silence where the barking had been. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. Don't think about the dog. Don't think about any of it. The light in the attic was dimming as the sun set. That yellowish afternoon light fading to orange, then gray. I turned on one flashlight, pointed it at the ceiling so it diffused instead of making harsh shadows. The beam was bright, strong, good batteries. I turned it off, saved them. Sitting in the growing darkness, I let myself think about the future. Real thinking, not panic. I had maybe 4 days of water if I was very careful. A week of food, maybe more if I rationed. Then what? Rain. I could catch rainwater on the roof if it rained. This was Washington. It rained all the time, but it was late August, usually dry until October, weeks away. I could try to get to my kitchen, refill water bottles. The risk versus reward calculation. How long before it lost interest in the house? Would they move on, looking for other prey? Or would they linger, drawn by sound or smell or whatever drove them now? The attic had my scent everywhere. My sweat, my breath, my presence. If they could track by smell, I was marked. Trapped in my own den. Stop. Spiraling wouldn't help. Focus on the immediate. Get through tonight. One problem at a time. I pulled on pants from my pile of clothes. Jeans. Better than boxer shorts if I needed to move fast, or if the roof shingles tore my skin. Socks. Real shoes, not the flip-flops I'd been wearing. My feet thanked me. Then a hoodie, because the attic would get cold once the heat of the day dissipated. Already, I could feel the temperature dropping. Food. Should I eat? I wasn't hungry. My stomach was still a knot of fear, but I needed calories, needed to keep my strength up. I opened the peanut butter, used a granola bar to scoop it out instead of finding a spoon. The sweetness and salt combination was overwhelming. I forced down half the bar before my stomach threatened to rebel. Drank water, small sips, making it last. 7:43 p.m. The attic was dark except for the faint twilight coming through the roof hatch crack. Outside, I could see the first stars, clear sky, beautiful night, the world ending under a postcard sunset. I needed to look at the street again, needed to know. I steeled myself, then climbed to the roof hatch and pushed it open wider, crawled out onto the shingles, now cool to the touch. The temperature had dropped fast, probably 60 degrees heading lower. I'd need all those blankets tonight. At the peak, I looked down. Maple Street was dark, not completely. A few houses still had lights on, running on backup generators maybe. Mine was dark. I hadn't paid the extra for a generator, had told myself I'd get one eventually, had never gotten around to it. Regret, sharp, and useless. The streetlights were out, no power to them, but the moon was rising, 3/4 full, and my eyes had adjusted. I could see shapes, movement. There were more of them now, way more. They filled the street, sidewalks, yards. Some stood still, swaying. Others walked in circles, endlessly, like broken toys. A group of them had clustered around the Martinez house, clawing at the door. I could hear the wood splintering even from here. One was in my front yard, standing there, looking up at my house, at my window. Not moving, just standing. Something about the stillness was worse than the violence. Then, its head turned, slowly, mechanically, looking up, looking higher, looking at the roof, looking at me. I froze, completely still, every muscle locked. It was too dark for it to see me clearly, had to be. I was silhouetted against the sky maybe, a shape on the roof, but it couldn't actually see my face. My eyes couldn't know I was human and alive, and it opened its mouth. That moan again, louder now, directed up at me. Calling. Others turned, heads swiveling toward my house, toward the roof, toward me. I scrambled backward, lost my grip, slid down the shingles. My fingers scraped, caught on the rough texture, stopped my slide inches from the roof hatch. My heart was trying to break through my ribs. I dropped through the hatch, pulled it closed, shot the bolt home. Silence. Just my breathing, ragged and loud in the enclosed space. They'd seen me. They knew I was here. The moaning continued outside, multiple voices now, a chorus. Feet on pavement, lots of them, converging on my house. Thuds against the walls. The scratching sound again, louder, more frantic. They were trying to get in. Could they climb? The roof was steep, 12-foot pitch at least. No handholds. But they'd been people. People could climb with the right motivation, the right tools, the right amount of desperation or insanity or whatever drove them now. I grabbed the hammer, held it in both hands, ready. If the hatch burst open, if they came through! The scratching intensified, wood groaning. Were they at the front door? The back? Windows breaking. I heard glass shatter, multiple panes. They were inside the house. My safe space, invaded. Heavy footsteps below, lots of them. Stumbling, crashing into furniture. Something heavy fell. My bookcase maybe. More breaking glass. They were destroying everything, searching, hunting. Would they find the attic access? Would they look up? I held my breath. The flashlight was off. The attic was pitch black except for faint moonlight through the roof hatch seams. I was invisible up here, hidden in darkness. They couldn't see me, couldn't smell me through the hatch. Please, let that be true. The noise below continued for what felt like hours but was probably minutes. Crashing, breaking, that constant moaning. Then, gradually, it decreased. The sound spread out through the house, moved away. Some of them were leaving, checking other rooms, other houses. The immediate frenzy was passing. But they were in my house, below me, between me and any supplies I'd left behind, any escape route I might have taken. I was truly trapped now. The attic was all I had. I waited in the darkness, hammer gripped so tight my hands cramped, waited for the sound of the hatch breaking open, for the ladder to drop, for dead hands to reach up and pull me down. It didn't come. Slowly, so slowly, my heartbeat returned to something like normal. My breathing steadied. The adrenaline faded, leaving me shaky and cold. I set down the hammer, flexed my aching fingers. The sounds below had mostly stopped. Occasional movement, but subdued now. Maybe they'd lost interest. Maybe whatever drew them here had faded. Maybe they were just standing down there waiting, patient as stones. I couldn't think about that. Couldn't think about them in my living room, my kitchen, my bedroom. Couldn't picture them standing in spaces I'd lived in, touching things I'd touched, occupying my life. The attic was my world now, 20 feet by 10 feet, exposed beams and pink insulation and supplies scattered in the darkness. This was home. I found my pile of blankets by feel, spread two on the floor between the beams. Not comfortable, but better than nothing. Rolled my hoodie into a pillow, lay down, fully clothed, shoes on, hammer within reach. Above me, the roof creaked as the wood contracted in the cooling air. Outside, the moaning continued, a background chorus of the damned. Inside, below me, silence. I closed my eyes but didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. My mind raced through scenarios, supplies, timelines, calculations, water math, food rationing, survival odds. 4 days until the water ran out. Then what? Rain. It had to rain. This was Washington. Seattle got rain. I'd catch it, drink it. Problem solved. Except how? I had bottles, but no funnel, no collection system. I'd have to improvise. Use a blanket, wring it out. Use the pot, set it out in the rain. Hope for enough. Hope the water wasn't contaminated. Hope a lot of things. Sleep. I needed sleep. Tomorrow would be day 2. I needed to be sharp, alert, ready. But every time I started to drift, a sound snapped me awake. A creak, a moan. The house settling. The infected wandering. My own heartbeat too loud in my ears. Hours passed. The moon moved across the sky, visible through the roof hatch cracks. I watched the light shift on the attic ceiling, marking time. At some point, I must have slept, because I woke with a start, disoriented, not knowing where I was. The attic was gray with pre-dawn light. My back ached from the hard floor. My mouth tasted like old copper. Day 2. I lay still, listening. The moaning outside had decreased, not gone. I could still hear it, distant now. Inside the house, nothing. No movement below. Slowly, carefully, I sat up. My body protested. I was 38, not in bad shape, but not great, and sleeping on attic beams had revealed every joint and muscle. I stretched, wincing. Water. I drank from one of the bottles, small sips, making it last. My stomach growled. The granola bar from last night hadn't been enough. I grabbed the bread, made a peanut butter sandwich with my fingers, no knife. It tasted like sawdust, but I forced it down. Breakfast. Day 2, breakfast in the attic. This was my life now. The roof hatch called to me. I needed to see daylight, needed to assess the situation. But after last night, after being spotted, was it safe? I waited, listened. The sounds outside were definitely quieter. Maybe they were less active during the day. Rabies affected behavior patterns. Maybe this pathogen did too. Made them more aggressive at night, more docile during day. Made sense. Worth testing. I unbolted the hatch, pushed it open slowly. Cool morning air flowed in, fresh and clean. The sky was pale blue, cloudless. Going to be another hot day. I crawled out onto the roof, staying low. The shingles were damp with dew. My hands left prints. I moved to the peak, raised my head just enough to see. Maple Street in daylight was worse somehow. The destruction was clearer. Cars crashed or abandoned, doors open. The Martinez house door was gone, just splinters hanging from hinges. Bodies in the street. I counted 5 that weren't moving. Actually dead, not infected. What was left of my neighbors? The infected were still there, but fewer. Maybe a dozen visible, scattered around. They moved slowly in the daylight, aimless wandering. One was sitting on a curb, rocking back and forth. Another was face down on a lawn, not moving. Dead? Resting? I couldn't tell. My front yard, the one from last night, was gone, but my door was broken open, hanging at an angle. Every window I could see was shattered. My house was violated, exposed. Movement caught my eye. Someone alive. Actually alive. 3 houses down, the Chen's roof. I could see a person, no, 2 people sitting on their roof peak. They waved at me, frantic. I waved back. Not alone. The thought was overwhelming. I wasn't the only one who'd had this idea, who'd climbed up and out. Others had survived the night. One of them was holding something white, waving it. A shirt? A signal flag? They pointed down the street, then at the Chen's house, then made gestures I couldn't interpret. Pointing at infected, warning me, telling me something. I shook my head, spread my hands. Can't understand. They tried again. More pointing, more gestures, growing frantic. Then one of them looked behind me, past me, and their face changed. Terror. I spun around. On the next roof over, the Kowalski house, something was climbing. One of the infected, impossibly scaling the drainage pipe attached to the corner of their house. Its movements were jerky, but determined. Hand over hand, feet braced against the siding. Climbing. They could climb. The thing reached the gutter, pulled itself up and over, onto the Kowalski roof. It stood, swaying, then turned its head, searching. Saw the people on the Chen roof. Saw me. Started moving toward me across the Kowalski roof, walking on the peak like it had perfect balance, arms out, focused. The gap between the Kowalski house and mine was maybe 8 feet. It couldn't jump that. Couldn't. It jumped. Not gracefully, it just hurled itself across the gap, arms windmilling. For a second it was airborne, silhouetted against the morning sky. Then it hit my roof, slid, caught itself on the shingles, started climbing toward me. I scrambled back, slid toward the roof hatch, dropped through, slammed it closed, shot the bolt. Grabbed the hammer and crouched there, breathing hard, staring at the hatch. Above me, footsteps on the roof. Uneven, dragging. The infected thing was up there, on my roof, walking around, looking for a way in. It found the hatch. I heard it stop right above where I was crouching. Heard something brush against the wood. Fingers? Testing the edges? The hatch rattled. Once, twice. The bolt held. I raised the hammer, ready. If it broke through... The rattling stopped. Footsteps moved away, pacing. Back and forth above me. The infected was patrolling my roof, searching for entry, guarding me from above. Trapped from below by the ones in my house. Trapped from above by the one on my roof. Trapped. The Chen people. Were they okay? Had more of those things climbed up to them? I couldn't check, couldn't risk opening the hatch again. I sat there, hammer in hand, listening to the footsteps above, back and forth, patient, endless. Hours passed. The attic heated up as the sun climbed. The footsteps never stopped. Sometimes they paused at the hatch, testing it again. Sometimes they moved to the edges of the roof, maybe looking down at the street. But they always came back, circling, hunting. I rationed another bottle of water, ate an apple. My supplies looked smaller in the daylight, inadequate. The second loaf of bread already had a spot of mold starting. The hot dogs smelled bad. I threw them into a corner away from everything else. The string cheese was soft, probably spoiled. Gone, too. Food inventory, revised. 1.5 loaves of bread going stale. 6 cans of soup. Jar of peanut butter, maybe half left. Crackers. 2 granola bars. 1 good apple. I'd lost a quarter of my supplies to spoilage in one day. In the heat of the attic, nothing would keep. I needed to eat the perishables fast, save the canned goods for later. But I wasn't hungry. Fear had killed my appetite. I forced down crackers anyway, peanut butter on each one, methodically fueling my body like filling a car with gas. Water. 22 bottles left, plus the half-gallon jug. 3.5 days, maybe less in this heat. I was sweating constantly. Losing water faster than in normal conditions. The footsteps above continued. Whatever was up there didn't get tired, didn't get bored, didn't give up. Below, I heard occasional sounds. Movement in the house. The infected down there were still present. I was surrounded above and below. Think! There had to be a solution, a way out or a way to last until rescue came. The military was deploying, the radio had said. They'd restore order, clear the infected, save survivors. I just had to wait. Just had to survive until they got here. Days, weeks, how long could I last? The radio. I turned it on, kept the volume low, cycled through stations, static, static, emergency broadcast, same message as yesterday. Static. Music, a different station, some automated classic rock station still running. Static. Then a voice. Weak signal, but clear enough. Day 2 of the outbreak. Confirmed reports of the pathogen spreading beyond the initial quarantine zones. The CDC estimates static. Percent of the population may be affected. Military forces are establishing safe zones in major cities. If you can reach a safe zone, proceed with extreme caution. Look for static, green smoke. Repeat, green smoke marks safe zones. Do not static after dark. They are more active after sunset. Remain sheltered. Conserve supplies. Help is coming. The signal died. I searched for it again but couldn't find it. That station was gone, or my radio couldn't pull it in anymore. Help is coming. Conserve supplies. They're more active after dark. Information, facts. I clung to them. The infected were more dangerous at night. Confirmed. Safe zones existed, marked with green smoke. Military was active, still operating. There was structure out there, organization, hope. But second day, only second day, and already things were this bad. How much worse would it get? The footsteps above paused at the hatch again. Long pause this time. I held my breath. Was it trying to figure out how to open it? Did it remember from its human life how latches and doors worked? The rattling when it came was violent, sustained. The infected thing was yanking on the hatch, hard enough that the wood groaned. The bolt held, but the wood around it might not. Old wood, not meant for this kind of stress. I moved fast, grabbed my supplies that were near the hatch, dragged them to the far end of the attic. If the hatch broke open, I wanted distance. The crowbar bracing the bedroom hatch, I moved that too, propped it against the wall within reach. 2 weapons now, crowbar and hammer. Not much against teeth and nails and inhuman strength. The rattling stopped. Footsteps moved away. It had given up for now, but it would try again. I knew it would try again. I needed a plan, needed to think beyond just surviving the next hour. Long-term survival meant water. Water was everything. The roof access gave me rain collection potential, but I needed to be able to open that hatch without being attacked, needed to clear the roof. How do you fight something that doesn't feel pain, doesn't get tired, doesn't stop? You can't outfight it, have to outsmart it, trick it, trap it. Ideas formed, dismiss themselves, lure it to one side of the roof, drop through the hatch on the other side. Except the roof wasn't that big, and it could cover the distance faster than I could open the hatch and drop through, make noise to draw it away. Except a noise would draw all of them. From the street, from inside my house. I'd be swarmed. Wait for it to leave. Would it leave? The people on the Chen roof, were they still there? Still alive? Had more of those things climbed up after them? I couldn't know. Couldn't check. Could only sit here in the heat and the dim light and listen to the footsteps above and the moaning below and try to make a plan that wasn't suicide. The day wore on. I dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every sound. Ate more crackers, sipped water, rationing carefully. The attic was an oven. My clothes were soaked with sweat. I stripped down to just pants and a t-shirt, couldn't stand the hoodie anymore. The sun moved across the sky, visible through the roof hatch gaps as golden beams shifting across the attic. I tracked time by those beams, marking hours. Late morning became afternoon. Afternoon stretched toward evening. The footsteps above were quieter now, not gone, but less frequent. The thing was still up there, but moving less. Conserving energy? Or just standing still, waiting? I risked turning on my phone. The 3:47 p.m. battery at 61% had only lost 3% being off. Good. Still no signal. I checked my texts, read the old ones from yesterday. My sister's last message. They're saying don't go outside for anything. Stay where you are. I love you. I typed a response, knowing it wouldn't send, still alive, trapped in attic. Don't know how long I can last. Love you too. Hit send. Watched it fail. The message sat there in my outbox. Unsent, unread. A message to no one. Turned the phone off. Saved the battery. Outside, the light was beginning to change. Golden hour approaching, then sunset, then dark. They're more active after dark. The radio had confirmed what I had already learned. Once the sun went down, things would get worse. I prepared. Organized my supplies by feel so I could find them in the dark. Flashlight within reach, but off. Hammer in my lap. Crowbar beside me, water bottle, food, all arranged around me in a circle, my tiny fortress of necessities. The footsteps above had stopped. For the last hour, nothing. Was the thing up there gone? Or just waiting? I listened to the sounds from below. The house noises had increased as the light faded. More movement down there, shuffling, bumping into things. The infected waking up, becoming active as night approached. The light through the roof hatch cracks faded from gold to orange to red to gray. The attic darkened. I sat in the growing blackness and waited. Full dark came fast once the sun set. The attic became absolute, impenetrable black. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. The only light was faint ambient glow through the roof hatch cracks. Moonlight, streetlight if any were working, not enough to see by. The moaning outside increased, the chorus of the infected louder now, more voices. They were gathering again, congregating, hunting. My roof. I heard footsteps again, definitely. The thing up there was moving around, active again. More footsteps joined it, plural. More than one infected was on my roof now. How many? 2? 3? They walked back and forth, pacing. I tracked them by sound. Tried to map their movements. One near the front of the house, one on the back slope. Maybe a third somewhere in between. The hatch rattled. Different location than before. This was the bedroom hatch, the one I'd braced with the crowbar. They'd found it, were testing it. The crowbar held, but the rattling was determined, sustained. Wood creaked, the latch groaned. I crawled toward it, hammer ready. If it broke through, it held. The rattling stopped. But I could hear them down there, in my bedroom, moving around, searching. They knew I was close. Could they smell me? Hear me breathing? Sense me somehow? I froze, barely breathed, waited. More sounds from other parts of the house. They were everywhere, in every room, filling my home. The sounds built, layered, a symphony of the damned, moaning, shuffling, breaking things, looking for me. Hours passed. The sounds continued, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, never stopping. Above me, the infected on the roof kept pacing. Below, the ones in my house kept searching. I sat in the darkness between them, trapped, waiting. Exhaustion hit me like a wave. I hadn't really slept in over 30 hours. My body was shutting down, demanding rest. But sleep seemed impossible with them so close, so active. I lay down on my blankets, hammer clutched to my chest. Closed my eyes even though it made no difference in the darkness. Listened to the sounds and tried to let them become background noise, white noise, meaningless. Sleep came in fragments, minutes at a time. Then a sound would snap me awake. A loud crash, a change in the moaning pattern, footsteps too close. I'd lie there rigid, heart pounding, until the adrenaline faded enough to let me drift again. This went on all night. A few minutes of sleep, then waking. Sleep, wake, sleep, wake. Never resting, never truly unconscious. My body got whatever it could take, but it wasn't enough. Dawn was a blessing I felt before I saw. The sounds outside decreased. The infected became less active. The pacing above me slowed. The ones in my house grew quiet. Gray light filtered through the roof hatch. I watched it strengthen, marking sunrise. Day 3. I'd survived another night, barely. But I'd made it. I sat up, every muscle aching, my head pounded with dehydration and exhaustion. I drank water, too much, couldn't help it. Emptied half a bottle before I forced myself to stop. Had to ration, had to. 21 bottles left. The half-gallon jug, less than 3 days of water. Less than 3 days until I died of thirst unless it rained or I found a solution. Food. The bread was stale, getting hard. I ate it anyway, forcing down dry chunks. The peanut butter was nearly gone. 2 granola bars left. 6 cans of soup. I could eat those cold if I had to. Drink the broth for hydration. That was something. The crackers were getting soft from the attic humidity, but still edible. I needed to open a can of soup. Protein, salt, liquid. I used the can opener, the only tool I'd remembered to grab that actually mattered, and opened a can of chicken noodle. Ate it cold with my fingers, scooping out noodles and chicken chunks. The broth I drank slowly, savoring the salt and flavor. It was the best thing I'd tasted in days. The can I kept. Might be useful. For water collection maybe, or as a tool. I set it aside. Outside, the sounds were minimal now. Daylight had put the infected into their dormant state. This was my window. If I was going to do something, check the roof, try anything, it had to be now. I crawled to the roof hatch, listened. No footsteps directly above. Waited 5 minutes. Nothing. Slowly, carefully, I unbolted the hatch and pushed it open a crack. Cool morning air, the blessing of it. I pushed the hatch wider, stuck my head out, looked around. The roof was empty. The infected that had been up here were gone. Climbed down, moved on, hunting elsewhere. Relief flooded through me. I pulled myself out onto the roof, stayed low, crawled to the peak, looked down at the street. More bodies, more destruction, but also movement. Not infected movement, human movement. Someone was in the street running, actually running, fleet and controlled. They had a backpack, something long in their hands, a stick, weapon. They were dodging between abandoned cars, moving fast toward the end of the street. I watched them disappear around the corner. They'd made it. Someone had survived, was mobile, was escaping or searching or something. There was still life out there beyond the infected. The Chen house roof, I could see it from here, empty. The people who'd been there were gone. Had they climbed down? Been pulled down? No way to know. My neighborhood was destroyed, but not empty. Life persisted. The thought gave me something, some spark of hope I hadn't felt since this started. A sound below. In my yard. I looked down and saw 3 infected stumbling around my front lawn. One of them looked up, saw me, opened its mouth. The moan brought others. Within seconds, a dozen infected were converging on my house, looking up at me, reaching. I dropped back through the hatch, slammed it shut, bolted it. Stupid. So stupid. I'd been visible, obvious, and now they knew for certain I was here. They'd try again to get to me. Would keep trying. The sounds below confirmed it. The infected in my house were active again, drawn by the moaning of the ones outside. The bedroom hatch rattled, harder than before. The crowbar slipped an inch. The wood around the latch cracked. I grabbed the crowbar, shoved it back in place, braced my weight against it. The rattling continued, but the hatch held. Barely. This couldn't continue. The hatches would fail eventually. The wood would give out. They'd break through, and I'd have nowhere to go but the roof, and they could climb now. I'd seen it. They'd follow me up, and I'd have no escape. Think. Solve this. There had to be a way. Water was the immediate crisis. I had 2 days left, maybe less. After that, nothing else mattered. I'd die of thirst up here while infected roamed below and above and all around. Rain. I needed rain. But the sky was clear, bright blue, not a cloud visible. The forecast, back when forecasts mattered, had said dry conditions through the week. Nothing coming to save me. The roof. I could collect dew from the shingles. That was water. Not much, but something. I had the pot, could wipe down shingles in the early morning when dew was heavy, wring out a cloth, collect what I could. It was something, a plan, a desperate, probably insufficient plan, but better than nothing. Wait for tomorrow morning, when they were dormant. Go out, collect dew, come back. Repeat daily, stretch the water supply as long as possible. And then? I didn't have an answer for and then. The long term was unthinkable. I could only focus on surviving another day, then another. String together enough days and maybe help would arrive. Maybe the military would clear the infected. Maybe a cure would be found. Maybe. The day stretched out, hot and long. I stayed away from both hatches, didn't risk being seen or heard, rationed water down to tiny sips, ate crackers and the last apple, dozed in the heat, woke, dozed again. My phone, 59% battery. I turned it on, read old texts again. My ex-wife's message. Are you safe? I typed back, knowing it wouldn't send. No, I'm not safe. I'm trapped and running out of water, and I don't think I'm going to make it. But I tried. I survived this long. That counts for something. Didn't send. Added it to my unsent messages. A diary of the end times written in text form to people who would never read them. My sister. I wrote her another message. Day 3, still alive. Infected or above and below me, I can hear them all the time. I dream about them when I sleep. I don't know how much longer I can do this, but I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. I love you. Tell Mom and Dad I love them too. Tell everyone. Unsent. Filed away with the others. I turned off the phone, sat in the dim attic and counted supplies again. Same as this morning. Nothing had changed except I was closer to dying of thirst. The afternoon heat was brutal. I stripped down to just underwear. Couldn't stand any more clothes. Even that was too much. Sweat poured off me. I was losing water faster than I could replace it. The bottles mocked me with their diminishing number. Toward evening, I forced myself to eat more. Half a can of soup cold, vegetable beef this time. The chunks of beef were gelatinous, disgusting, but I ate them. Protein, calories, fuel, 5 cans of soup left. If I ate one a day, 5 days, but I'd be out of water by then. The math didn't work. Nothing worked. The light faded. The infected became active. The cycle repeated. Moaning outside, movement below, footsteps on the roof. They'd return to my roof, drawn back by whatever instinct or memory told them prey was here. Night 3. I lay in the darkness and listened to them, and tried not to think about dying of thirst in this attic, while they waited below to tear apart whatever dehydrated corpse I became. Sleep came harder than the night before. The exhaustion was deeper, but the fear was sharper. Every sound jolted me awake. My dreams, when they came, were fragmented. Images of water, of rain, of drinking until I drowned. I woke gasping, mouth dry as sand, desperate. Dawn. Day 4. I'd been in the attic for 3 full days, 72 hours. It felt like months. Water check, 16 bottles, the half-gallon jug. I drunk more than I meant to in the night, delirious with thirst. Maybe a day and a half left, maybe less. This morning I had to try the dew collection, had to. It was my only chance. I waited for full light, listened to the sounds outside, decreased to dormant levels. Prepared my supplies, a pot, a t-shirt to use as a rag, an empty water bottle to store whatever I collected, the roof hatch. I unbolted it, pushed it open slowly, scanned the roof. Empty. The infected had left with the sunrise. Good. I crawled out, brought my supplies. The shingles were damp with dew, beaded with moisture. I pressed the t-shirt against the shingles, wiped, soaked up the dew, wrung it out into the pot. Again and again, moving across the roof, collecting dew from every surface I could reach. The work was slow. The dew was minimal. After 20 minutes of wiping and wringing, I had maybe a cup of water in the pot. Not enough, not nearly enough. I kept going, covered more of the roof, got another half cup. The sun was getting higher, burning off the dew. Soon, there'd be nothing left to collect. Total haul, maybe a cup and a half of water, dirty water, contaminated with roof grime and bird droppings and who knows what. But water. I poured it through the t-shirt into the empty bottle, filtering it. The shirt caught the worst of the debris. The water in the bottle was gray, cloudy, but liquid. I'd have to boil it. Except I had no way to boil water up here. No heat source beyond candles, and those weren't enough. Drink it anyway? Risk getting sick? Dehydration would kill me faster than waterborne illness. The math was simple. I brought my supplies back to the hatch, dropped them through. Took one last look at the street. The bodies were still there, more than yesterday. The infected were still roaming, but in smaller numbers. Were they dying off or moving elsewhere, following food sources? The runner I'd seen yesterday. Maybe others had escaped, drawn the infected away. Maybe I was in a pocket of relative safety now. Or maybe I was fooling myself. Back in the attic, I looked at my collected water. A cup and a half. 1 day's worth if I was lucky. Tomorrow I could collect more. String it out. Survive a few more days. And then, the same question. No answer. Just more days, more suffering, more slow death. I had to try something else. Had to. The house below, were the infected still there? During the day, when they were dormant, could I risk going down? Getting to the kitchen, refilling water bottles? It might be my only chance. The bedroom hatch. The one I'd been avoiding. The one they'd been testing. I crawled to it. Listened. No sounds immediately below. The crowbar was still in place, holding it shut. I could remove the crowbar, open the hatch, lower the ladder, climb down into my bedroom. The bedroom I knew, had lived in, had woken up in every morning for 3 years. Familiar territory. Except now, it was their territory. They'd been in there, I'd heard them. Could be one standing right below the hatch, waiting. Could be a dozen. But I'd seen them during the day. Dormant, slow, barely reactive. If I was quiet, fast, careful, maybe I could get down and back up before they woke fully. Maybe. Possibly. A terrible risk, but death by thirst was certain. I made my decision. Had to try. Had to. I removed the crowbar slowly, carefully. Set it aside. The latch was simple. I could open it from this side. My hands shook as I reached for it. Then I stopped. A sound below, in the bedroom, breathing, wet, ragged breathing, right below the hatch. One of them was down there, waiting or sleeping or standing guard, right there. I backed away from the hatch, crowbar back in place. Not today. Too dangerous. The risk was too high, but soon I'd have no choice. Water would run out, and I'd have to try or die of thirst. The clock was ticking. Every hour brought me closer to that impossible decision. I returned to my corner of the attic, drank sparingly from my clean water, looked at my collected dew water, made myself take a small sip. It tasted like roof, dirty, gritty, but my body didn't care. Water was water. The day passed in heat and fear and desperate planning. I thought through scenarios, mapped my bedroom in my mind. Where was the door? 6 steps from the ladder. The hallway beyond, another 10 steps to the stairs. Down the stairs, 13 steps. I'd walked them 10,000 times. Through the living room to the kitchen, the sink. Could I make it? Down and back, filling bottles before they woke up and swarmed me? 30 seconds? A minute? How fast could I move? Not fast enough. I knew it. What choice did I have? The sun set. Night 4 began. The infected woke up. The cycle continued. I lay in the darkness and prayed for rain, prayed for rescue, prayed for anything to change. Nothing changed. The night was the same as the previous nights, moaning, pacing, sounds of them everywhere. I didn't sleep, couldn't sleep, just lay there and waited for dawn. Day 5. I woke to silence. Not the active silence of infected nearby, but true silence. No moaning outside, no movement below. Nothing. I listened harder. Still, nothing. What did that mean? Had they moved on? All of them? Or was it a trap? Some new behavior I didn't understand? Only one way to find out? The roof. I opened the hatch, looked out. The street was empty. Not just of infected, empty of everything. No bodies, no movement, nothing. Like everyone and everything had just vanished. I crawled to the peak, looked around. The neighborhood stretched out, silent and still. Cars abandoned, windows broken. But no people, no infected. Where had they gone? Then I saw the smoke, several blocks away, rising into the morning sky. Black smoke, thick and oily. Something was burning, and beyond it, higher up, visible against the blue sky, green smoke. A signal flare, burning green, marking something, the radio broadcast. Safe zones marked with green smoke. There was a safe zone. Not close, but reachable. Maybe a mile away. If I could get down from the attic, get out of my house, get through the neighborhood without being killed, I could make it. A mile, on foot, through infected territory. With no weapon but a hammer and no supplies but what I could carry. But the alternative was staying here and dying of thirst. I had to try. I went back to the attic, gathered my supplies. Everything essential went into my backpack. Water bottles, all of them, 14 left. The canned soup, as many as would fit. Can opener, knife, hammer through my belt loop, flashlight, phone. first aid kit, everything else I left. The blankets, the extra clothes, the spoiled food. Wouldn't need them where I was going. The backpack was heavy, manageable. I could run with it if I had to. The bedroom hatch. I removed the crowbar, put my ear against the wood, listened. Nothing. No breathing, no movement. Maybe they really were gone. I unlatched the hatch, pushed it open. The ladder unfolded, dropped down into my bedroom with a bang that made me flinch. Silence below. I peered down. My bedroom was destroyed. Furniture overturned, mattress shredded, clothes everywhere. But empty. No infected. I climbed down the ladder, backpack on, hammer in hand. Stepped onto my bedroom floor for the first time in 5 days. The smell hit me. Blood, decay, something worse underneath it all. The smell of death. I gagged, forced it down, moved to the door. The hallway was clear. Looked into each room as I passed. Bathroom, destroyed but empty. Guest room, same. The stairs ahead. I descended slowly, testing each step. The house creaked but held. No ambush, no sudden attack. The living room was a nightmare. Blood everywhere, broken everything, but still empty. The kitchen, the sink. I moved quickly now, filled every water bottle I had. Drank straight from the tap, gulping, refilling my dehydrated body. The water was still running. Miracle of miracles, the water was still running. I filled bottles until my backpack couldn't hold more. Grabbed a few more, carried them in my hands. Water, precious, life-saving water. The front door hung open, broken off its hinges. I approached carefully, looked out. The street was still empty, the green smoke still visible in the distance. My path clear. I stepped out into the morning sun, free of the attic, free of the trap, alive. I started walking toward the green smoke, toward the safe zone, toward whatever came next. Each step was a victory, each breath a blessing. Behind me, my house, my tomb, my prison, my unlikely sanctuary, sat silent and empty. I didn't look back. The street was quiet, yes, but that didn't mean safe. Every shadow could hide an infected. Every open door was a threat. I walked down the center of the street, away from buildings and cars, giving myself maximum visibility and escape routes. The backpack pulled at my shoulders, heavier with each step. My legs were weak from days of inactivity, muscles cramped from the attic. I'd made it maybe 50 feet when I had to stop, catch my breath. Out of shape. Dehydrated despite the water I'd just guzzled. This mile was going to be hard. Keep moving. Don't stop for long. The green smoke was my beacon, my goal. I focused on it and walked. Past the Martinez house with its destroyed door. I glanced inside. Didn't want to, but couldn't help it. Dark inside, couldn't see details. Didn't want to see details. Kept walking, past the Jeffersons' crashed car. The mailbox was still demolished. Mail scattered across the lawn, soaked from sprinklers that must have run until the water pressure finally died. Bills and catalogs and someone's birthday card, all trash now. Past Tom Williams' house. His Seahawks flag still hung from the porch, faded and torn. I wondered if he was still himself somewhere, or if he'd become one of those things. Wondered and tried not to. The end of Maple Street. I'd reached the corner. This was the furthest I could see from my roof, the edge of my known world for the past 5 days. Beyond this corner was unknown territory. I peered around carefully. The cross street, Oak Avenue, was equally destroyed. More abandoned cars, more broken windows, but also more bodies. Lots more. They lined the street, piled against buildings, sprawled across lawns. Dozens of them. The infected had been here, in force. Were any of them still alive, still capable of moving? I watched for several minutes, looking for breathing, for movement. Nothing. They were all dead, actually dead this time. I walked down Oak Avenue, threading between corpses. Tried not to look at faces, tried not to see the people they'd been. Failed. That one was wearing a UPS uniform. That one had a teddy bear clutched against its chest. That one looked young, maybe a teenager, face frozen in an expression of terror and rage combined. The smell was overwhelming. I breathed through my mouth, shallow breaths, fighting nausea. The heat wasn't helping. Late August, probably 80 degrees already, and these bodies had been here for days. The decay was advanced. Flies. Clouds of them, buzzing, swarming. I waved them away from my face, kept walking. The green smoke was closer now. Maybe half a mile. I could make it. Had to make it. A sound behind me, scraping, shuffling. I spun, hammer raised. One of the bodies was moving, not dead, just dormant. It was pulling itself along the ground, legs not working, arms dragging it forward. Toward me. Slow but determined. I backed away. It kept coming. Its face was destroyed, torn apart, but it was still moving, still hunting. I could outpace it easily, didn't need to fight. I turned and walked faster, putting distance between us. More movement ahead, another infected, this one standing in a doorway. It saw me, opened its mouth, that moan. Here it came. I ran. The backpack bounced, water bottles sloshing. My legs protested, but adrenaline overrode everything. The infected stumbled out of the doorway, reached for me. I dodged past it, kept running. Behind me, more moaning. The two infected were calling others. How many were dormant in this area, waiting to wake up? How many would I draw to me? The green smoke, a focus on the green smoke. Sprint now, full speed, everything I had left. I rounded another corner onto Birch Street. The safe zone was close, just ahead. I could see barricades now, concrete barriers forming a perimeter, military vehicles, people in uniform with rifles. The green smoke flare burning on top of a building. Safety. Right there. So close. Behind me, a crowd of infected had formed, not running yet, but moving in my direction, following. I'd drawn them out of their hiding places, woken them up. If they caught me now, this close to safety after everything, I ran harder. My lungs burned. My vision narrowed to tunnel focus. The barricades, the soldiers, safety. "Help!" I shouted. "Help! I'm alive! Let me in!" The soldiers saw me, raised their rifles, aimed at me, at the infected behind me, shouted orders I couldn't hear over my pounding heartbeat. "Don't shoot! I'm not infected, please!" 50 feet from the barricades, 40, 30. The soldiers were yelling, "Run! Run faster!" I was running as fast as I could. My legs were rubber. The backpack dragged me down, 20 feet. Behind me, the infected were close. I could hear them right there, almost feel them. Don't look back, never look back. 10 feet. The soldiers were moving the barriers, creating an opening, hands reaching for me. "Come on, now!" I dove through the gap. Hands grabbed me, pulled me inside. The barriers slammed shut behind me. Something hit the concrete. An infected had lunged at me, missed by inches. I collapsed on the ground inside the safe zone, gasping. Safe. I'd made it. I was alive. A soldier knelt beside me. "Are you bitten? Scratched? Any wounds?" I shook my head. Couldn't speak yet. Just gasped for air. "Check him," the soldier ordered. Other hands on me, inspecting my skin, looking for bites, finding nothing. "He's clean," someone said. "Get him water. Medical. Move." I was pulled to my feet, supported by soldiers on both sides. They walked me deeper into the safe zone. I looked around, trying to process. The safe zone was several blocks, barricaded on all sides. Military vehicles formed part of the perimeter. Inside, there were tents, supply stations, groups of people, survivors, hundreds of them, maybe 1,000. I'd found other people, a community, safety in numbers. They brought me to a medical tent. A doctor checked me over, asking questions. How long had I been alone? Had I been exposed? Any symptoms? I answered as best I could, brain still catching up to the fact that I was here, that I'd survived. Water. They gave me clean water in a plastic cup. I drank it, asked for more. Drank that too. My body absorbing it desperately. "You're dehydrated, but otherwise okay," the doctor said. "You got lucky. A lot of people didn't." "How many?" I asked. "How many made it here?" He shook his head. "Not enough. We've got maybe 1,500 people in this zone. The city had 200,000. Do the math. Less than 1%. 99% of my city was dead or infected. The number was too big to process." "What happens now?" I asked. "We wait. The military is trying to clear zones, establish supply lines. Could be days, could be weeks. But you're safe here. You made it. That's what matters." Safe. The word felt foreign. I'd spent 5 days in constant terror, and now I was supposed to feel safe, just like that? But I was here, inside the barricades, surrounded by armed soldiers and other survivors. For the moment, at least, I wasn't being hunted. They gave me a spot in one of the tents, a cot, a blanket, my own space. I set down my backpack, still heavy with water bottles and soup cans, and sat on the cot. Other people in the tent looked at me. Some nodded, acknowledging a fellow survivor. Others stared into space, traumatized beyond words. A few were crying quietly. We'd all made it. We'd all survived. But at what cost? What had we lost to get here? I thought about my attic, my 5 days in the heat and darkness, rationing water, listening to infected tear apart my home. I'd been so close to dying up there, hours away from dehydration, from making a desperate suicide run to the kitchen. Instead, I'd seen the green smoke, taken the chance, made it out. Luck, timing, fate, whatever you wanted to call it. I'd gotten it, and thousands of others hadn't. Survivor's guilt settled over me like a weight. Mrs. Patterson, the Martinez kids, Tom Williams, my neighbors, my community, all gone. And I was here, alive, safe. Why me? What made me special? Nothing, just chance, random horrible chance. A woman approached my cot, middle-aged, tired eyes, but she managed to smile. "You just got here?" I nodded. "I'm Sarah. Been here since day one. If you need anything, want to know how things work, just ask." "Thank you," I managed. My voice was rough from shouting, from dehydration, from 5 days of barely speaking. "We have food distribution at noon and 6, water any time. There's a tank over there. Bathrooms are in that building, still working. Try to conserve, but use what you need." "Okay." "And at night, it gets loud. They gather around the perimeter. The soldiers keep them out, but you can hear them. Earplugs help. I can get you some." "Thanks." She patted my shoulder. "You made it. That's the important thing. Rest now. You look like you need it." She moved on to help someone else, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Rest. When had I last really rested? Not in 5 days. Not since this started. My body was exhausted, running on nothing but adrenaline and fear. Now that I was safe, the crash hit hard. I lay down on the cot. The tent was warm, but not attic hot. The cot was uncomfortable, but better than attic beams. The sounds around me were human sounds, people talking, moving, living. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 5 days, I let myself actually sleep. Deep sleep, not the fitful terror dozing of the attic, real sleep. I dreamed about water, about rain falling on my roof, collecting in buckets, overflowing, about drinking until I drowned. The dreams weren't peaceful, but they weren't nightmares either. Just processing. My brain working through what had happened. I woke to darkness. Night had fallen. The tent was dim, lit by a few battery lanterns. Around me, people were sleeping or trying to. Some were crying, some talking in whispers. Outside, Sarah had been right. The infected were gathering at the perimeter. I could hear them. That moaning, that horrible chorus. Loud, persistent, unchanging. They knew we were here. They wanted in. But the barricades held. The soldiers patrolled. We were safe. Had to believe that. Had to trust it. I sat up, drank water from one of my bottles. My own supply, still good. The safe zone had water, but these bottles were mine, carried from my house, earned through 5 days of survival. I wasn't ready to give them up yet. A soldier walked through the tent, checking on people. Young guy, maybe 25. He saw me awake, approached. "Doing okay?" "Yeah, thanks. First night here." "Just arrived this morning," he nodded. "It gets easier. The sounds, I mean. You get used to them." "You think so?" "Has to. Otherwise we'd all go crazy." He moved on. I lay back down, listening to the moaning outside, trying to hear it as just background noise, white noise. Meaningless. It didn't work. Every moan was a reminder of what was out there, what had almost killed me, what had killed so many others. But I was here, inside, safe. I repeated it like a mantra, safe, safe, safe. Eventually, I slept again. Days passed in the safe zone. I fell into routines. Wake up, get water, eat whatever food they were distributing, help with tasks, moving supplies, reinforcing barricades, anything to stay busy. Talk to other survivors, hear their stories. Everyone had a story. Everyone had survived something horrible to get here. The woman from 3 tents over had hidden in a freezer for 4 days, nearly froze to death, but the infected couldn't smell her through the cold. The old man who'd climbed a tree and stayed there for a week, eating leaves and bark, waiting. The teenager who'd run through the streets at night, using noise to draw infected away from his family's hiding spot, then somehow making it here alone, story after story, each one a miracle, each one proof that humans could survive anything if they had to. I told my story too. The attic, the roof access, 5 days of rationing water, collecting dew, listening to infected tear apart my home. People nodded, understanding. We'd all done what we had to do. Week 2 in the safe zone. The military brought news. Other safe zones had been established. Not many, but some. They were working on clearing routes between them, establishing convoys. Eventually, they said, we'd be relocated to larger, more sustainable settlements. Eventually, no timeline. Could be weeks, could be months. But we had food, water, shelter, medical care, protection. More than we'd had before. We could wait. The infected never left the perimeter. They were always there, clustered against the barricades, moaning, reaching, waiting. During the day, they were dormant but present. At night, they were active, aggressive. Sometimes they'd throw themselves against the barriers, testing them. The soldiers would fire, drive them back. But they always returned. How long could this last? How long could we stay in this tiny zone, surrounded by thousands of infected, waiting for help that might never come? I tried not to think about it, focused on each day, each meal, each night survived. String together enough days, and it became a week. Enough weeks, and it became survival. My attic experience had taught me that. Break survival down into manageable pieces. Don't think about forever. Just think about today. Today I was alive. Today I had water and food. Today I was safe. Tomorrow could take care of itself. Week 3. A commotion at the east barricade. Shouting, gunfire. Everyone in the safe zone tensed, waiting. A convoy. Military trucks. Armed escorts. They'd broken through the infected, brought supplies, food, medicine, ammunition, and news. The government was regrouping. Safe zones across the country were being connected. A plan was forming to reclaim cities, clear the infected, rebuild. It would take time, years maybe, but humanity wasn't finished. We were fighting back. Hope, real hope. For the first time since that emergency alert on day 1, I felt like maybe we'd actually survive this. The convoy brought orders too. This safe zone was being evacuated in 1 week. Everyone would be moved to a larger settlement upstate, a former military base converted into a permanent refuge. We'd travel by convoy, protected by armed forces. It would be dangerous, but necessary. A week to prepare. A week to say goodbye to this temporary shelter that had saved us. I spent that week helping pack supplies, organize people, prepare for the move. Kept busy. Didn't think too much about the journey ahead or what could go wrong. On the last night, before evacuation, I stood at the perimeter and looked out at the infected. They were still there, still moaning, still reaching. They'd be here long after we left, wandering this empty safe zone, searching for prey that was gone. Some part of me felt sorry for them. They'd been people once, my neighbors. Maybe some of them had survived in their attics too, only to eventually get bitten, infected, transformed. Their humanity stripped away, leaving only hunger and violence. But mostly I just felt tired of fear, tired of survival, tired of living in a world where this was normal. The morning came. The convoy assembled. Trucks, military vehicles, armed soldiers everywhere. We loaded in groups, civilians in the center vehicles, soldiers front and back, protection on all sides. I climbed into a truck with 20 other survivors. We sat on benches, backpacks clutched tight, faces grim. No one spoke. What was there to say? The convoy began to move, slowly at first, then faster as we left the safe zone behind. The barricades fell away. We were exposed now, vulnerable, moving through infected territory with nothing but metal and guns between us and them. I looked out the back of the truck. The safe zone shrank in the distance. The infected converged on it, filling the empty space, reclaiming it. Within hours, it would be just another infected zone, indistinguishable from the rest of the dead city. We drove for hours, through destroyed neighborhoods, past crashed vehicles, through piles of bodies. The scope of the destruction was overwhelming. This had been a city of 200,000. Now, it was a graveyard. The infected saw us, chased the convoy, but we were faster. They fell behind, disappeared. New ones appeared ahead. The soldiers fired from the gun positions, clearing the road. We kept moving. By sunset, we'd left the city. The landscape changed to rural roads, forests, open fields. Fewer infected out here. They'd concentrated in the cities where the population had been. Out here was relatively clear. The military base appeared as the sun set. High walls, guard towers, a proper fortress. Green smoke rising from multiple points. The convoy approached, was waved through gates that opened then closed behind us. Inside was a city unto itself. Thousands of people, organized streets of tents and prefab buildings, supply depots, medical facilities. This wasn't a temporary safe zone. This was a settlement, a new beginning. We were processed, assigned housing, given supplies. I ended up in a shared barracks with 50 other survivors. Not much privacy, but it was secure, clean, safe. That night, I lay in my assigned bunk and thought about my attic. 5 days that had felt like a lifetime. The heat, the thirst, the fear, the sounds of infected destroying my home, the desperate gamble of collecting dew from the roof, the moment I'd seen the green smoke and known I had a chance. I'd survived. Against all odds, through luck and caution and sheer stubborn will to live, I'd survived. Thousands hadn't, hundreds of thousands, millions probably if the infection had spread this far. The world was changed forever. Nothing would ever be the same as before, but I was alive. That counted for something, had to count for something. Tomorrow I'd start building a new life in this settlement. Find work, find purpose, find a reason to keep going beyond just survival. Tonight I'd remember my attic, my prison, my sanctuary. The place where I learned I was stronger than I thought, where I learned I could endure anything if I had to. 5 days that changed everything. 5 days that saved my life. I closed my eyes and slept. Real sleep, deep and dreamless. The sleep of someone who'd survived and could finally rest. The attic was behind me. The future was ahead. And I was still here, still alive, still fighting. That was enough.